Shopify Masters is powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. To get an extended 30-day trial, visit shopify.com/masters.
I had 350 specialty stores, independent stores around the United States and Canada, and couldn't get a major to pick it up. And Amy and I started doing some like secret shopper.
Hey, my name is Felix. I'm the host of Shopify Masters. Each week, we learn the keys to success from e-commerce experts and entrepreneurs like you. In this episode, you'll learn how to approach meeting with a buyer at a retail store, what you can learn by becoming a secret shopper, and why you want to start as small as possible when selling into big box retailers. Today, I'm joined by Jonathan Booz from Working Stiffs. Working Stiffs is the innovative accessories brand bridging the gap between fashion and function, and was on ABC's Shark Tank and was started in 2006 and based out of Sarasota, Florida. Welcome, Jonathan.
Hey, Felix. How you doing?
Good. So yeah, excited to have you on. So tell us a bit more about your store and what are some of the more popular products that you carry?
Yeah, so workingstiffs.com, we carry men's, what we consider men's essentials. So it's actually men's accessories, but we put an innovative twist to things. So there is that function and fashion, like you mentioned at the beginning. So the product that we're known for, and I have a utility patent on, is the magnetic collar stays. So that's the product that put me on the map and started the whole journey. But we do RFID blocking wallets. We also do a silicone D bag, as we call it, the only D bag you want to travel with. and it allows you to wash it out. So if anything explodes in the bag, it doesn't get all over your luggage. So these are the type of items. We do tie bars and cufflinks and different things like that. But these are the type of items kind of we bring to the table.
Nice. So do you have a background in this industry, in this fashion industry, or how did you get started into this?
That's a loaded question. Well, going back, my family, I grew up in a family-owned business, and my grandfather was a farmer. My father did a lawn maintenance business. I have an identical twin and two older brothers. But growing up, it was very strong work ethic, and I always was the kid that came up with ideas, very entrepreneurial as a kid, mm-hmm. And I kind of was the black sheep of the family. I went the automotive route because I love design and creativity. So I started went to a tech institute to learn collision repair and painting. So I used to do a lot of like custom motorcycles and cars and all these things. So that's kind of where my career path started, actually, as an automotive paint technician, which evolved into an insurance adjuster, to being a general manager of some collision centers, to the men's fashion industry.
Wow, big jump.
Can you connect the dots?
That's funny. So how did you decide that this was a market or industry that you wanted to get into?
Yeah, so what happened was, at the time, I was managing two collision centers for a franchise down here in Florida. And I was running late for some dinner that we had with my wife, and I come home and she threw a shirt at me. And as I was putting on the shirt, and it was a collared button-up shirt, the collar was so huge and like spread out, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm like, this thing's horrible. And my wife's like, what, you don't like the shirt? And I go, no, I like the shirt, it's the collar. And literally in the mirror, I had this aha moment of, hey, if I just pin the shirt down, the collar down, if the collar was here and not out here, man, it would be amazing. And literally right then and there, it came up to my head, magnetic. If I can make the collar stay magnetically, and boom, that was it. And that's how I kind of entered with a product and a product idea. And I actually had brought it to my twin brother the next day. And I said, oh my goodness, I have this idea. And he goes, that is the simplest and stupidest idea. If you don't do it, I will. Right? So it gave me like the fuel to kind of go ahead and pursue it. But it came from a very innocent place.
Yeah, so you obviously had this need, you stumbled across essentially, or you came up with a solution for it, showed it to your twin brother. Did you go out and test it in any other ways? Like, what motivated you to actually take those steps towards creating this product at scale and creating a business around it?
Okay, so it's very interesting. It's like, so you start going down the path of, how do you get this thing manufactured? And is there going to be interest and all these things? So what I did was very, archaic type of prototypes and we would sand metal down. And because of my background in metal and sheet metal, I had the stuff laser cutted. I'd sand it all down for smooth edges. And I was giving it to my twin brother. He had clients that were, wealthy people, attorneys' wives and doctors' wives and stuff like that. So I said, hey, show it to them, because these are people that are going to be in the men's industry that's going to care about the way they look. And it was like an immediate reaction, right? And they said, oh my goodness, where can I buy these? And my brother would say, well, they're not out yet. My brother invented this product. So that kind of spun off right away to get it patented. And so then we went down that rabbit hole to get it patented, which took a few years, but we did our utility patent had published probably about 3 years later. But what I did was I did go to market a little early before the patent published. So when we got the response, and then I had to go get, find out real manufacturing and work all that out, that whole process took about a good year, maybe a year and a few months. And so then it was, I've got 12,000 units sitting in my garage. What am I going to do with these things, right? I designed the packaging and the boxing and all this stuff. And we didn't have, a clientele for this stuff. We just knew that, it was a viable product. So literally what had happened was one day I had quit my day job and came home, and my wife at the time, our son was 10 months old. And my wife says, oh, what do you mean you quit your job? And she's like, what are we going to do? I said, we're going to go sell those collar stays. I said, go get dressed up. And like any entrepreneur, I literally strapped my 10-month-old in the car seat. She jumped in the car, drove to a men's specialty store here in Sarasota called the Met. And I sent her in to do the dirty work. And she sold them. And right away came out and she says, the gentleman inside, he's the owner of the store. And he says, how did you get this job? And, this is an amazing product. And she says, oh, my husband's the inventor, and he's out in the car. And she brought him outside. And that was the beginning. I mean, like, he basically said, oh, you need to go see this one. You need to go see that one. And up in Tampa, which is about an hour drive north. So we literally, from there, went to Tampa.
So you were just sitting on this inventory for a while you had your day job and just not sure exactly what to do with it. Like what was going on with the products at the time prior to you quitting your day job and trying to go out and sell it?
I knew when I talked, I went way forward. So I'll rewind a little bit. So I was managing 2 collision centers. As this whole idea came up, I'm perfecting prototypes. I get with a manufacturer to start kind of making the product to sell. My wife was pregnant at the time, and when she had my son Aiden, she was all intentions to go back to work, and then didn't want to leave the baby. So you got this whole family dynamic. We're our firstborn, and I went ahead and had the inventory made because I knew, like, I need product to sell. If I don't have anything to sell, what am I selling? Air. So I need to invest in product. So the whole beginning of this was very, it came from a very honest place. All it was to do was, maybe we'll sell some collar stays and supplement income, Amy, that you left your job. We're just going to supplement some income. But what happened was, we were, at the time, we had a 1-page website and a buy now button. It was something that I designed. It was, I'm not no webmaster. 1-page website, buy now button. We're getting like 1 click a day, trying to get exposure, trying to get anyone, a magazine, to like pick us up, GQ, Men's Vogue, Men's Health, anything, right? And it was all falling on kind of like deaf ears. And it was kind of weird because we're kind of like, well, this, we feel that this product's amazing. And what had happened was uncrate.com picked us up. They didn't even let us know that they because you're basically throwing spaghetti against the wall just to get someone to write about you, right? And literally I'd come home every day, Amy, how many did we sell? You sold one. The next day, how many did we sell? You sold one. And this went on for about 2 weeks. And then I come home from work and I go, hey, Amy, how many did we sell? And she goes, I don't know. Take a look at the website. You probably sold one. And I went to the website and it was like, and back then it was all about PayPal, right? So it was like, you've got money, you've got money, you've got money. I'm like, huh? It was over 200 orders.
Wow.
I literally was like laughing and crying at the same time because I'm like, it was so painful to process an order back then. So, and we obviously muscled through it, but we knew to kind of get to scale, it had to get to stores for us. So back then, again, there was like no Facebook and Twitter. It's not like it was. I mean, it sounds like, right? It sounds like I'm talking about the 1920s or something.
Yeah.
But but yeah, it was a little bit of a different time on that end. So we knew, I knew I had a viable product because I just had 200 orders. People were starting to email us like, this is amazing. We started having stores email us. How do I get this in my store? So that kind of was what prompted me to quit my job and to kind of go all in. I had a good gut feeling that, hey, look, this is resonating. If we can get it into some stores, and that's kind of where the bootstrapping went in. And so that, to kind of now fast forward, that's where it was like, I quit my day job. I was having, just like any working guy or gal, promises made, promises broken. You stick in there, promises made, promises broken. And I was like, I had enough. Look, I got 12,000 units sitting in my garage. If I can sell these things and focus on it, I'll be fine. Me and my family will be fine. So that's kind of, just came from a very honest place. I mean, so it started as supplementing income, came to let's conquer evil collars around the world.
I see. So you already knew that there was a demand for this. You just knew that if you had the time to focus on it, you could really scale this up. And you knew that at the time, the channel for it was to go directly to retail. So let's fast forward to that point. You approached the first store, or your wife approached the first store. They were really excited about it, which made you realize, like, wow, this is actually a viable avenue to go down. What was your plan then moving forward? Was it to hit up as many stores in Florida as possible to carry your brand?
Correct. My family is originally from New York, so we're from Long Island. So from Florida, we kind of went through the rounds here. You got to understand, we didn't know men's specialty stores. I never even stepped foot in some of these stores. They're very, they're higher end. They can be a little, scary because you're dealing with, price points that are way above my pay grade at that point. And so we knew the next step would really like, hey, if this is working in Florida, we need to get to a bigger market. So when I went to New York, to where my family is, and literally started doing the same thing. And we went and we got a lot of no's. So in Florida, it was yes, 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 yes. In New York, nope, 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 nope. and we ended up in a store in Huntington that said yes. And at that time, that store, which we did not know, you don't just walk into these stores and get product placed. They're like, oh, you have to meet with one of our buyers. And I'm like, what's a buyer? We had no clue, right? And it ended up to be a store that's kind of like a flagship store in the menswear industry. So when they brought us in, that was kind of like the seal of approval, if you will. We did our very first trade show from the 200 units plus from Uncrate to our trade to bootstrapping it to our first trade show. That was a period of about 5 to 6 months. And when we did our first trade show, that's when we really got the attention from stores. So stores were really the first, it was .com, one-page website in specialty stores. And then we had one big main .comer back then. It was a company called onthefly.com. They were online only men's specialty store. So you can kind of see, like, we were seeing that someone that does .com right can do a lot of volume, right? We weren't really known. On the Fly at the time had all these cool men's products from, shirts and pants and suits to cufflinks and this, that, and the other. So the collar stays fit right in. And he had the the database, right, to get out there. So he was one of our biggest, well, our only and biggest .com conduit at that point.
Gotcha. So kind of want to lay out the strategy again. You first hit up these specialty stores, and then you got a lot of yeses in Florida. Maybe we'll start there, actually. In the stores that you had early success with, could you just walk into the store and sell directly to the person, I guess, working at the store itself? Or did you have to meet with a buyer and go through the same process that you went through in New York?
Okay, so basically we would walk in and say, obviously, well, Amy would. And the thing is, look at Amy, my wife is people say, hi, well, how did you get her? And I always say, well, that was 20 years and 50 pounds ago. But she's very, people stop and look, hey, she's a cute girl. But she speaks very well and she can sell, that's kind of like of her background. So in a men's store, they would stop and talk to her. When I went to New York, it was me and my twin brother. And we thought like, oh, two identical twins walk into a store, right? The beginning line of a joke. And we would get a no. And Josh would say to me, well, how did Amy get all these yeses? I said, I don't know, maybe because she's a girl. I don't know. But I think the difference was in Florida, it's not as much, it's a little more laid back and casual. So you can walk in and ask for a manager or the store owner, and more likely than not, you're going to be able to talk to them. And those guys are the decision makers. In New York, there's layers of people, and there's more of a structure, I guess you can say, to the organization, even if it's a small store. They're like, oh, no, so-and-so is not here. You have to go through this. So there's a lot more red tape. And That's kind of more what it was. It was just, it was the market's different. And it's just a different attitude, if you will.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's say that you do have to go through meeting with a buyer. How do you recommend people approach a store to try to secure a meeting with a buyer? Is it just to walk in and ask for a meeting with them? Like, what's the best, I guess, approach to getting a meeting with them?
I think again, we're only talking 10 years ago, so I don't think, my right arm, Ken will say, well, that was so many years ago, and you walked into stores. You don't do that today. And it's like, well, again, wasn't the 1920s or 30s. Look at people like to do business with people. Mm-hmm. When you're trying to get something off the ground, it is all about the product, right? If you don't have a great product or something that's going to disrupt an industry, people go, yeah, whatever, So, but if you have something that's great and you got to get in front of people, I'm a big believer in direct contact. I mean, we live in a world where it's all about emails and text messages, and so the human element kind of gets lost. So it's like, how do you break through and connect? And a lot of that is as simple as a phone call. And, you got to understand these buyers, especially like in department stores, these guys are very busy. They're all going omni-channel, so they got a lot on their plate. And so you've got to stand out from the crowd. So it's more than a one direct line of offense. It's kind of, it's a phone call, it's an email, it's a package, and it's all these things that together will get you a phone call back. Especially, again, kind of preferences in this with that, you have to have a good product. Mm-hmm. But I think I tell people it's one foot in front of the other. I think even for working stiffs, it hasn't been like you hear about these actors that are famous and they go, yeah, I'm a 15-year overnight success, right? And it's kind of like the same thing. It's like you do all these little things that make you successful. And then when you find out what is successful, I'm a big believer in replicating it. And it doesn't work on across the board because you do have different markets and different kind of attitudes within regional geographic areas. But if you can replicate something and understand why it's working and why it's not working, it'll kind of help you break through. But again, I think that, going back to with buyers, it is more difficult. I will say it is more difficult today than it was 10 years ago. And I think the reason being, especially when you get into bigger stores, is that, a lot of people or a lot of stores have streamlined the way they do things. So when they used to have regional buyers for a store with a couple of assistants, you're talking now they've streamlined that down to national buyers with one assistant, right? So it's harder to kind of get their attention. But you have to think outside the box. I mean, like, there's so many people that, and you can't take no for an answer. I mean, that's the other thing. A lot of people hear no and they get deflated. It's like, you're going to hear no. You're going to. I mean, I love hearing no. And I love, figuring out how to get them to say yes, or to, position myself for the best opportunity to partner with the store. And that's the other thing that I'm a big believer in. It's a partnership. It's got to be a win-win. It's not a lopsided, event that happens. It's really kind of embracing and understanding who your customer is. So I know you haven't asked. I'm gonna say something that might jump a little bit.
Please.
You always want that big store, right? The department store or whatever within the industry that you're in. So for us, it was like, how do we get into a Neiman's or Nordstrom or Saks or Bloomingdale's? And what was interesting is we were trying to contact all these people. The Nordstrom gave me a shot. I was about 3 years in business. I had 350 specialty stores, independent stores around the United States and Canada, and couldn't get a major to pick it up. And Amy and I started doing some like secret shopper. So once you start kind of understanding why is it working in these specialty stores and these mass department stores, these majors aren't latching on. So we do secret shopping, and I realized Nordstrom really, our culture is very well fit. They're like a big specialty store, and they're really customer service oriented. And they didn't care if I walked in with flip flops or if I walked in with a 3-piece suit. They treated me the same. And I said, this is the place we want to be. And I think this is our best shot. And so we focused for about a year on Nordstrom, and then finally got the meeting with them. And it was like they changed the landscape of working stiffs. They brought us to the next level. We literally, they tested us in 24 doors, and within 3 months we were in 77. And by the end of that year, we were in all doors, Nordstrom. And then what happens is once you're on that, in a major like that, what I didn't realize is other majors are also doing the same type of thing. They're secret shopping stores to see what's the next hottest item that maybe their competitor has that they don't. Yeah, so it was like it was kind of an eye opener. All of a sudden, I started getting phone calls from Neiman Marcus and Saks. It was the weirdest thing. Like, Felix, you're like, holy smokes, what do you, this is amazing. And so that, I went and saw 88 Nordstrom stores. I literally was talking to the sales floor, let them know that it's a husband and wife with, at that time, my son was 3 or 4 years old, that, this isn't a big company and this is our livelihood. So I was fortunate enough, and Nordstrom was gracious enough to give me the opportunity to literally go into their home or stores, right, and kind of shake the hands of the people that were selling my product and really getting passionate about the product. So it resonated. So it did really well. And that's kind of what kind of opened up more doors. And then Shark Tank saw the product at Nordstrom, and that's how that kind of rolled out and happened.
Yeah, it's amazing how the validation, the co-signing of a major brand or a major store like Nordstrom in your case just starts like a snowball effect of so many more people paying attention to you. And I bet doors that were closed to you before all of a sudden are now open because a big brand or big store like Nordstrom started carrying you guys, started vouching for your product. So this 1 year of working and focusing on trying to get into Nordstrom's, was it like an active every day? You had to be doing something to make progress towards it, or was it more of a waiting game? What was that 1 year like?
So within that 1 year of focus, you got to realize that 3 years had passed. We end up in an industry we knew nothing about, and we really got educated on the inner workings of how this actually works. It's not typical that somebody's just going to walk into a specialty store and actually pitch a product and this, that, and the other. I think real entrepreneurs do those type of things, and that's what separates a lot of people from others. Is that and you hear the no's and you keep going. You don't just like crumble. So those 3 years were crucial, and it was funny because I look back and I said, if Nordstrom at any other time came in, would we have been as successful as we were at that point? And I want to say probably not. By that time we understood what we needed to do. So that year kind of looked like it was like a balancing act of, like you say, were you doing something daily? Was it a sit and wait? It was kind of both, right? And at the time, Nordstrom had regional buyers. They had 5 regional buyers across the United States, but men's accessories was done by one national buyer, and the buyer happened to be female. And we knew our hurdle was with women, because it was kind of like you're talking foreign. It's like, oh, it's a magnetic collar stay, and we have a patent on it, and hit a button down your collar, and they'd go, I don't get what you're talking about. So it's kind of like asking us, hey, where's some, women's pantyhose, and these are the best pants, and we're going to go, we don't get it, right? So we knew that we had to, that was a hurdle for us. So we would reach out from time to time, keep it on like a schedule, didn't want to be annoying, obviously. And we would do, again, in different ways, right? You would write a letter with the product, please hand them out to your associates within the office. Guys really love this product, this, that, and the other. Then you followed up with an email, and then you'd maybe make a phone call. And most of the times you'd leave a message, right? Because you can't get them on the phone. So all this stuff would happen. Well, we ended up on their radar. So, and I also, what was the icing on the cake was I met a gentleman in Miami that I was doing a project for. He was a neckwear designer that was now doing a shirt line. And he was selling all his neckwear in Nordstrom. So I was doing a project for him. I drove to Miami, and I'm talking to him about the project. And he said to me, why aren't you in Nordstrom? And I said, oh, well, here's the deal. And here's the buyer and this. And he goes, yeah. Let me contact one of the regional buyers for you. And he did. And they heard of us. Right. But nothing was done. So we made an appointment and kind of broke through Daniel, who said, hey, they're going to be at this trade show. And that's how we were able to meet one buyer. Well, that one buyer that came in started telling the other buyers, I just saw this product. Well, many of them heard of it, but never literally sat in front of us or seen it. And it snowballed. It snowballed within the buyers in New York. We're at a trade show in New York.
And they heard of it because you guys were, for that year, or I guess over the 3 years, were just working on trying to get in front of them. Is that how they heard of you?
Yeah, I think it was twofold. We're trying to get into the door. So, people hear of things, or an assistant. There's obviously, like any business, and actually large businesses, people move around, right? So an assistant that you don't know about here knows of something, and then they get transferred to here. And so, and then they knew that this product was in specialty stores. So that, it was I think it was twofold. It was like they heard of it kind of internally. They they've seen it or heard of it in specialty store. But, a major doesn't, especially when someone, like you said earlier, like when they put their stamp of approval on you, it's not only about the product. I think it's about the people. So they want to know who you are, and you got to get that time in front of them to get your personality across, to say, hey, look, this is what the brand represents. And well, at the time it was a product, right? It really wasn't a brand, but I think it's multifaceted. I don't think it's just one linear way, boom. But I think the phone call with Daniel to them and that kind of introduction really kind of broke way, where one person said, you know what, I'll stop by and see them. Mm-hmm. Boom, they stop by. You just talk to them open and honestly. Here's the product. And all of a sudden you can see the look on their face oh my God, this is awesome. and then next thing you know, another buyer comes in. Oh, Kristen just sent me here. Right? And it's
snowball effect again. That's amazing.
So, exactly.
Now you mentioned earlier about how you don't want to just be another vendor to these stores. You want to develop a partnership with them. So during this, I guess when you're working with the specialty stores, and also when you had the initial test with Nordstrom, what do you do to increase your, I guess, success of making a good first impression or doing well on the initial test?
I believe in less is more. So, and that has proven true even to this day. So no matter how big you get, you look at a company, let's say, has 1,000 doors, and you go, oh man, I want to be in all 1,000 doors. The best thing to do is actually go in small. going small, targeted to like the best doors. Hey, we want to be in your A and B doors. And instead of 1,000 doors, I'd like to be in 50 of them. And I want to do 50 really well, get to learn the way they, that company and store does things, even on a logistical end, because, we do our own fulfillment here. So I have a warehouse and we do our own fulfillment. So there's a lot of, kind of ins and outs that you have to learn, with EDI and different things. So I always believe, what you don't want to do is end up getting excited about what the purchase order can be right up front. You want to build some legs under you, because if you go into like, hey, I'm going to go into 500 of your doors and they say yes, if anything goes sideways, it's a big oopsie daisy. So you'd rather go in smaller, understand all the little caveats and kind of hurdles, make sure that you understand them, can leap over them, fix anything that needs to be fixed, and then expand out from there. I mean, they're always going to be, if your product is successful, and it's all, these days it's all about sell-through. So, you got it. You have to have a good sell-through rate. If you go into 500 doors and, 80% of those doors are underperforming, it brings down the other 20% that are doing excellent with your product. So you kind of want to go in with your best foot forward on both sides of the table, right? And there's the partnership. Hey, we'd like your best doors that are going to help us succeed, and we're going to put our total focus on those doors to make it succeed. And then that's the partnership. And then you can work on, growing it from there.
Awesome. So now after the success of Nordstrom and all these other majors started paying attention to you, that's when I think you're saying you got the attention of ABC's Shark Tank. So tell us about that experience. What did you go in looking for? What kind of deal did you end up going looking for? And what happened by the end of it?
All right, Felix, boy, all right. So that was, I was on season 2. And so it was kind of a different experience, I think, than most maybe have today. I got a phone call. I was in New York in a cab going to my very first meeting with Saks Fifth Avenue, and I get a phone call from the casting director of Shark Tank. They saw the product. One of the producers or something saw the product at Nordstrom, blah, 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 blah. Would I be willing to, audition for Shark Tank and this, that, and the other? So obviously that was a yes. And I was looking really, specifically, I wanted to partner with Damon because he was in the, fashion industry. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember exactly what I went into the tank asking for, but what I do know and what people most know me for is kind of combating with Damon. And I was on set for over an hour. So they take that hour of taping time and they edit it down to 7 minutes. So there's a lot of things that happen on set that you don't get to see. And, it's reality. I mean, there's no script to it. Walked out of the tank with not such a great deal. Damon and Barbara came on board, and then there's negotiations after Shark Tank. So, I mean, the deals you see on air get negotiated out behind the scenes. And for me at that time, I had different objectives. Like, we just didn't see eye to eye with, they wanted to, Damon really wanted to license out my intellectual property to other brands. And I wanted to build a brand. I mean, at the time I was collar stays and cufflinks. That's all and that was it. So, he understood, and we actually have a business relationship to this day where I do cufflinks for him. But, we just kind of like, a deal never happened in real life because we just couldn't see eye to eye on how we wanted to roll this thing out.
I've heard that but a lot of deals actually don't work out after the show airs. Did the publicity from Shark Tank, even in season 2, did it help you with any sales or any business from there on?
Yeah, I think so. They've replayed at one time. I know my segment was like one of the most aired segments in Shark Tank. I don't know where it's at now, but I feel like I should get residuals at this point. So, yeah, I mean, you get a spike up again. I don't think they do replays now with that show. The older shows on CNBC. So I think today being on Shark Tank is a different experience and a different market share than it was, I aired in 2011. So you're looking at 5-6 years ago. So I think it's a different thing. But yeah, we do. When they replay it or whatever, we'll see a spike up in sales online for sure. The other thing that was big was after Shark Tank, it got us on. I was on the product was on the Today Show for Father's Day, then for holiday, and then again the next year, Father's Day, and then holiday again. So we're on the Today Show and their gift segments and stuff. And that really, the Today Show really is what did it for us online. I mean, the online sales, I mean, like a 2-second mention, Chuck Nice said, it's like Viagra for your shirt collar.
Nice.
And it was like $30,000 in like under 3 hours on .com. So it was amazing. That was our first like major direct correlation between something happening on air and sales to that magnitude. Now, I mean, so that was back in 2011 and 2012. I think now if you're on Shark Tank, we would if that didn't happen in season 2 and we were on it today, I have a feeling that's what you would see today. That kind of big push. Our collar stays, they're $40. So you have to do a lot of $40 transactions to get to $30,000. So, but it is about exposure. I mean, I think the .com today, the landscape's changing, as you can see in the retail world, and I think entrepreneurs have a great opportunity to kind of take hold of their own destiny on .com. I think it's a little different than it was. I mean, we didn't adopt Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff. I didn't adopt that stuff early on when it was all kind of hitting. I was very in-store focused, but for the past year and a half, we've been .com focused, and that was the switch that we were the one-page website I talked about earlier, and which increased to 2 to 3 pages. we were building this thing on Magento, but when we switched to Shopify, it was a game changer for us. And I'm not getting paid by Shopify to say that, but but let me tell you, it was almost an immediate difference. And we chose to go with Shopify because of the integration of different apps and how to kind of make the web experience more robust. It was just amazing, the difference.
Yeah, maybe we'll close out on that. What are some of the apps or tools and services that you guys rely on a lot to help run the business?
So, I mean, right now we're definitely very socially oriented, on Facebook and Instagram and that stuff. But as far as apps, the things that we're seeing that really kind of help us move the needle is like the upsell app. We use an upsell app on it, and we use a special discount app on different things. But we really see like the upsells work, right? So it's like we know we have like over 200 SKUs now, and we do a lot of different products. And it's how do you capture the guy that's coming in for college stays and make him into a guy that's going to buy a silicone D bag? And both great products, and how do you bridge that gap? And we find like through the upsell app and offering a discount to capture that person is very useful. I mean, the thing that we look at every day that's another great feature with Shopify is that, as simple as it sounds, it's just the mobile Shopify app. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm probably, my wife will probably say I'm addicted to it, but it's like, I mean, I'm always looking at it as throughout the day. Watching, the numbers and the visitors and this, that, and the other. Now, I have a guy that Dylan handles all our social media. He handles all our digital end of working stiffs. But, I'm still addicted to that because, for an entrepreneur, it's all about the numbers, right? And making sure, everything's firing on all cylinders.
Awesome. So workingstiffs.com is a website, WURKINSTIFFS.com. Where do you want to see the brand go in the next year? Where do you want to focus on in I guess 2017?
Yeah, so we're really focused on direct to consumer. So it's all about product development for us. So we're really kind of carving out this niche of innovative men's products. So instead of maybe like right now we say, it's men's essentials, it's more like men's necessities, and it's all it's the little things that count for We'll probably never see us really get involved in like clothing, perhaps, but we really believe that it's those little items that mean a lot to guys, and guys love gadgety things. So for us, again, it's all about product development and getting direct to the consumer with an experience that's maybe different than you're going to see in store. Because in store, you're not going to see the whole breadth of a brand. It doesn't work like that anymore. They cherry pick items. So the .com is the platform to really show the brand and the breadth of the brand. So you gotta, that experience has to transcend over a computer screen into their living room. So that's kind of what we're really focusing on this year, is the presentation from the .com, as you know it digitally, and then when you receive the product, how that is represented, representative of the brand in the guy's hand.
Awesome. So again, workingstiffs.com. Anywhere else that you recommend listeners go and check out now that you're focused more online?
As far as what?
I guess, are you guys big on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter? What's the kind of main channels that people can follow along with these new, I guess, products that you guys might be putting out?
So it's definitely our .com. I think we're heavy into Instagram. We love to reach people and have people reach us as far as, their interaction with the brand and tell their story. So I know Dylan's pushing a big initiative to kind of reach out to the fellow working stiffs out there and getting their take on different types of style and their kind of relationship with our brand, and we're doing like a big reach out. That's some of the initiatives that you'll see this year. We're going to get a lot more focused with the relationship with our customers and fellow working stiffs as we have in the past with our stores.
Awesome. Thanks again so much for your time, Jonathan. Workingstiffs.com. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Felix.
Here's a sneak peek of what's in store for the next Shopify Masters episode.
When we first launched the second campaign, I think we made like $60,000 in a day and a half. Like, it was immediately the people who were there the first time who were excited, they immediately jumped back in.
Thanks for listening to Shopify Masters, the e-commerce marketing podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs. To start your store today, visit shopify.com/masters to claim your extended 30-day free trial.